Yun po ang inihingi po ng ating mga manufacturer kasi nakita po natin napakalaki ng takot ng mga manufacturer sa Dengvaxia. Hindi po natin nailagay na yung tinatawag ng informed consent at saka po yung tinatawag po natin na wala po tayong law or agreement na nagbibigay ng protection sa mga manufacturer.
The Philippines has signed an indemnity agreement with Pfizer and AstraZeneca, but vaccine chief Carlito Galvez says manufacturers still want an actual law to avoid a repeat of the Dengvaxia fiasco.
A measure for its creation is already rolling in both chambers of Congress, and they seek to fast-track its passage just before the month ends. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Ho.
And I am Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. The Philippines has signed an indemnification deal with vaccine manufacturers under the COVAX facility.
Lawmakers, meanwhile, are still debating whether to allow local governments to directly transact with manufacturers for their vaccine orders. Ria Fernandez has the report.
Mid-February had been the initial target rollout for COVID vaccines in the country. Fast forward to today, no vaccines yet. Authorities point to a possible cause of delay, indemnification. This determines accountability in case vaccines have adverse effects. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez says the government already sent the signed indemnity agreement to Pfizer and AstraZeneca. But it might not be enough. Drug manufacturers want a more concrete legal cover that will protect them from potential lawsuits. Galvez says Pfizer wanted to prevent a repeat of the Dengvaxia mess, which exposed Sanofi to a string of lawsuits.
Nagkaroon po tayo ng tinatawag na pagkakamali na hindi po natin nailagay na yung tinatawag ng informed consent. At saka po yung tinatawag po natin na wala po tayong law or agreement na nagbibigay ng protection sa mga manufacturer.
While the sentiment is well-founded, Congressman Juni Cua says there is no need for a separate law. Cua says their proposed measure to expedite COVID vaccine procurement already includes an indemnity provision. It also scraps a provision allowing LGUs to directly purchase shots, limiting them to a tripartite agreement with government. Representatives say this ensures LGUs are backed up should there be a problem in vaccine quality and supply. Lawmakers also intend to augment Phivolcs COVID-19 indemnity fund to 500 million pesos. But this failed to make the list of approved amendments. Cua said this may be sourced elsewhere.
Maraming pwedeng pagkunan dyan. Pwedeng kunin sa contingent fund. Pwedeng kunin sa other sources. Halimbawa natin, savings from debt service.
The bill is now on the House plenary, same as the Senate's version. Both chambers now move to fast-track its passage, although some senators question the so-called delayed response from the national government.
Ang private sector may perfected contract, may down payment.
Despite the delay, Galvez is optimistic the country will still get vaccines through the COVAX facility. For News 5, Ria Fernandez, We Are One News.
And we will discuss more about this indemnification bill later on in the show. For now, we'll have with us Quirino Representative Juni Cua. He's also the Vice Chairperson of the House Appropriations Panel and the co-author of the Vaccine Procurement Bill. Congressman Cua, welcome to The Big Story. Oh, we'll have Congressman Cua later. In the meantime, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez attributes manufacturer apprehension to the country's experience with Sanofi's Dengvaxia. That fiasco also eroded public trust in vaccines. Tonight's big number, 32%. Vaccine confidence among Filipinos dramatically dropped to that level in 2018 due to the Dengvaxia miss. That's from a high of 93% in 2015. The London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine attributed the decline to the, quote, highly politicized response to the risks of the Dengvaxia shots.
These are the other big stories tonight. Authorities claim that an average of more than 4,000 hogs have been arriving in Metro Manila since a price cap was put in place. But retailers and dealers complain the supply has yet to reach their stalls. As seismic activity in Taal has not shown any signs of letting up, state volcanologists warn the odds of another phreatic eruption increases. And despite the emergence of new variants of COVID-19, global infections have declined for the 5th straight week. These big stories right after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay. Circling back to our top story, is an indemnification bill actually warranted and necessary? Joining us tonight to discuss, Quirino Representative Juni Kua. He is also the Vice Chairperson of the House Appropriations Panel and the co-author of the vaccine procurement bill. We have him on the line. Congressman Kua, welcome to The Big Story. Congressman Kua, can you hear us? Congressman Kua, can you hear us? This is... Congressman Kua, can you hear us? Okay, we'll try to get back to Congressman Kua later. Hog shipments from Mindanao have started arriving in Manila in a bid to stabilize pork prices in the metro. But wet markets say they have not received their stocks yet. Why is that? Shaila Francisco tells us.
2,000 hogs from Sock Sargent arrived in the port of Manila on Wednesday morning. The Agriculture Department says this will directly go to markets in Quezon City. This comes after over 1,000 hogs from General Santos City arrived on Tuesday as part of the 7,000 hog deliveries. Both hog arrivals are part of the Agriculture Department's program to lower pork prices amid the price cap. An average of 4,560 hogs have arrived daily since the price cap was implemented, surpassing the daily requirement in NCR. However, retailers claim that the supplies have not reached the markets yet. Aurora, a pork retailer, can't help but get emotional as she continues to grapple with high prices.
Sana po maparating ninyo ang mga baboy na sinasabi niyong mababang presyo. Pero ang baboy ho namin talagang mataas. Kailan ho namin matatanggap ang presyong mababa?
More than 3 wet markets in Metro Manila have complained to the DA, saying that hogs have not arrived in their areas since the first delivery last week. As vendors struggle to comply with the price cap, around 70 to 100 retailers face notices of complaint.
Di pa completely umabot sa on the process pa rin yung logistics natin di ba? Hindi naman at an instant, nandun na siya kaagad eh. Katulad nito, nagbiyahe pa, ilang oras siya.
Agriculture Secretary William Dar denied claims that hogs from Mindanao have yet to make it to the wet markets.
Mayroon ng mga wholesalers na bibili at sila na yung nagdi-distribute sa mga iba't ibang wet markets. Hindi namin minamanage yun.
Some dealers did receive hog supply from the agency, although deliveries did not arrive daily. Dealers are now urging the DA to assign a point person for each market to ensure the arrival of hogs. But some meat dealers are not contented with this. They want the agency to name wholesalers as they may raise prices without the public's knowledge.
Kung mura yung kuha nila o mahal, hindi alam ng tao yan, na mga manlilili. Pag inilantad nila, malalaman na ng mga tao kung saan napupunta yung baboy.
The DA is now requiring wholesalers to declare which markets and retailers their hogs will be delivered to. Retailers are also asked to countersign the documents to ensure that hogs are delivered in NCR wet markets and other meat stores. But for now, the agency is advising consumers to look for other markets which follow the price ceiling. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
Okay, let's get back to our top story. Is an indemnification bill really warranted and necessary? Joining us tonight to discuss Quirino, Representative Juni Cua. He is also the Vice Chairperson of the House Appropriations Panel and the co-author of the Vaccine Procurement Bill. Congressman Cua, welcome to the big story. Can you hear us, Congressman Cua? Okay, once again, we apologize for our technical difficulties. SM cinemas will likely be running at a loss once movie theaters reopen. Speaking with Business World Live today, SM Supermalls President Stephen Tan said weak demand will not compensate for operational expenses should the proposal push through next month. But he said reopening cinemas will bring back jobs and could do its part in ramping up consumer confidence.
To be honest with you, it's even better to close the cinema and not having it operated at all. No, if it remains operational, you have some fixed costs that you have to pay, electricity bill, and but the main concern here is also the employment.
With COVID-19 still very much around, the Catholic Church had to introduce certain changes in marking the start of the Lenten season. What are those and how will they affect the laity faith? JC Cosico tells us in this report.
Valenzuela resident Henry Palanca travels to Santo Domingo Church in Quezon City to hear Mass. But he failed to do so this Ash Wednesday. He contented himself with a quick prayer and took home a sachet of the blessed ash.
I'll make it a point na kahit pa paano makapagpaasya ko. So dumaan ako dito.
The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines issued guidelines on the activity, which marks the start of the Lenten season. Household heads may take home ashes to be administered to family members. Prayer guides may be obtained from parishes or online. Burning of dried branches and leaves has also been allowed for the making of ashes.
So ito po ay paraan para maabot namin doon sa mga ibang family members na hindi nakakalabas sa panahon ng pandemic.
At the Baclaran Church in Parañaque, non-sprinkled ashes on the laity's crowns instead of tracing crosses on their foreheads. The church clarifies this is still in accord with ancient practice. If Catholics are anointed on the crown during baptism, the ashes signify repentance from sin, which has marred baptism's grace.
Magkaiba ang pamamaraan ng paggawa, pero sana ang kahulugan ay pareho.
Some Catholics welcome these changes.
Parang pareho din naman yun eh. Kasi, kumbaga nasa loob mo rin kung tatanggapin mo ng pag-ano ng abot sa iyo.
Okay lang, wala namang para rin na sa protection ng lahat. Kahit nasa na lang, okay lang, ayos na.
The Baclaran Church expects about 50,000 Catholics to visit today, but only 3,000 individuals will be allowed inside, still less than 1,000 from its 50% capacity. The church says it will gradually allow more churchgoers once they've adapted to the situation. For News 5, JC Cosico, We Are One News.
Time for an express look at some of the day's big stories. Tropical Depression Auring entered the Philippine area of responsibility at 8 a.m. today. This is the country's first tropical cyclone for the year. It is forecast to strengthen into a tropical storm and make landfall over Caraga by Saturday evening or Sunday morning. Some students of the De La Salle College of St. Benilde may be facing or resuming face-to-face classes soon. CHED Chairman Prospero De Vera tells Agenda that Benilde bubble setup has already been approved by the IATF since August last year. Under the setup, students will be housed in Benilde's hotel facilities. But De Vera clarifies this is not mandatory. The Bureau of Customs warns the public against fake COVID-19 vaccines that are locally manufactured and distributed. The agency said it has previously apprehended makeshift clinics that supposedly treat COVID-19 patients and distribute fake doses. The BOC is teaming up with law enforcers to tighten border security against importation of fake and smuggled vaccines. Time for another quick break. When we return, with close to 70 tremors recorded today, Phivolcs is not discounting the possibility of another Taal Volcano eruption. And global COVID-19 infections have been declining steadily in the past 5 weeks. More details when we come back.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Alampay. You're still watching The Big Story. Going back to our top story on the need to fast-track an indemnification law. To discuss that, we have on the line the co-author of the vaccine procurement bill, Quirino, Representative Juni Cua. Congressman Cua, welcome to The Big Story. Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can hear you, Robbie. Mr. Alampay, yes.
Thank you for hanging on. We apologize for the technical issues. Let's get into it. Do we need a law for this, or can this be covered just by our contracts with the suppliers?
I think the supplier, they want to have a peace of mind. They need a law. So it does not need actually a separate law. It can be incorporated in the bill that we're preparing now, and this is about empowerment of the government and the local, national government, local government to procure in an expeditious way and administer the vaccination program efficiently. It can be incorporated in this bill.
Okay, but we asked because the Pfizer and AstraZeneca have said they would prefer a specific bill on this. They're very mindful, of course, of what happened with Sanofi and Dengvaxia. Is there any risk with regards to our negotiations for these vaccines and whatever is already in the pipeline? Should expectations fall, the actual law fall short of what they prefer?
No, I don't think that would be an issue. I think they understand that just a provision in any law will suffice. In this bill that we are crafting, we will incorporate under one of the sections an indemnification clause which will include a fund and the source of funding.
Okay, good that you mentioned that. What is the source of funding? We understand not everybody is on the same page when it comes to PhilHealth, for example.
Well, we understand that there are issues about PhilHealth, especially in implementation credibility. But I think that is the best agency to handle this. It being the arm to do all these things. So we just have to ensure about the integrity of implementation. So the funding source would be specified in the bill.
Quirino Representative Junie Cua. Maraming salamat po. Despite Phivolcs sounding the alarm on a possible eruption of the Taal Volcano, many residents are still returning and taking that risk for the sake of their livelihood. Romel Lopez with the details.
The armed forces, along with the Philippine Coast Guard and the PNP, continue to patrol the vicinity of the Taal Volcano Island. They reminded fish cage workers who are still along the lake to come back to the mainland of Talisay after they are done feeding their livestock. Recall that on Tuesday, local officials in Batangas carried out a forced evacuation to stop residents from returning to the volcano island.
Ito naman ay para sa mga kababayan natin. Pag-iingat, advance information mula sa Phivolcs. At sana yung mga kababayan namin na dito sa mainland sa Talisay ay huwag magpanik dahil ang inilikas lamang naman yung mga nagpapatuka.
Even after the eruption last year, residents continue to frequent the volcano island to go on with their livelihood.
Mas komportable ang buhay doon. Bakit po nga? Dahil ibig ko sabihin, dito nga, kagaya dito, nakatingala lang, ganito. Kung sabi daw nila din, boring. Sa pulok at papaano, malwagang kilos. Ganun yun.
Makakapaghanap buhay pa kayo doon?
Oo, nakapaghanap buhay niya ako. Yung pa ako konti. Yun yung patang ha. Makapagbenta ako ng 2 kilo. O di pambili ng bigas.
Taal remains under alert level 1 following several tremors due to the volcano's hydrothermal activity. Phivolcs Director Renato Solidum Jr. warned that another phreatic eruption is likely to happen again. But Solidum clarified that this kind of eruption will likely affect the volcano island only.
Yung phreatic eruption or explosion ay mabilisan po yan o sudden. So kapag ang tao po ay natutulog doon at ninirahan, lalo na sa gabi, mahirap po silang mag-responde ng tama.
To be able to go on with their livelihood, fishermen were told just to lag in and lag out of the pier so that authorities can monitor their whereabouts. As of now, over 900 evacuees are residing in temporary shelter since the Taal Volcano's last eruption. Some of them said they haven't received any updates from the government yet regarding their relocation.
Kung maaari nga po, gusto na namin bumalik po sa aming isla eh. Kaso bawal po, hindi na po pwede. Kaya kung maaari po, mabigyan na po kami ng pabahay.
An official admitted that the local government has not even identified possible relocation sites for the evacuees.
May problema po dito yung mayor kaya hindi po ma-relocate. Kasi kung dapat nga po yung pambili naming 11 million ng lote, dapat noong January pa, after lockdown ng Taal Volcano, dapat po yun ay inihanap na po nila ng lugar. Up to now, wala pa.
Kahit makapag-identify sa
Kahit wala pa eh.
For News 5, Romel Lopez. We are One News.
COVID-19 cases worldwide continue to go down. That's for the 5th consecutive week. WHO is reporting that global COVID-19 cases dropped 16% from the week prior to 2.7 million new cases. The number of new deaths also fell by 10%. The WHO is attributing the decline to public's adherence to health measures, even as new strains of the virus emerge in different parts of the world.
The big story now in sports. After being back in the league, Calvin Abueva is now heading to Magnolia after being traded for point guard Banchero in the upcoming draft. The fuel master said it was not an easy decision to let go of the Phil-Am cager considering he has been with Phoenix through thick and thin. However, they do see some promise in their new acquisitions. Phoenix also sent their first-round pick to the Hotshots in exchange for Magnolia's first and second-round picks in next month's rookie draft.
A delivery rider from Binondo, Manila wins the heart of netizens for making the ends meet during the pandemic with his partner. In a now viral Facebook post, customer Michael Jamandre recalls how his delivery was already 3 hours late. But when rider Jeffrey Sioson arrived on his rusty, clunky bicycle, Michael felt awe instead of dissatisfaction. That's why, aside from giving a hefty tip, Michael shared his experience online. This drew the attention of netizens who gave Jeffrey cash donations. An anonymous donor reached out to News 5 and gave him not 1, but 2 brand new mountain bikes plus a helmet. But Jeffrey promises not to dump his partner just yet, as he has lots of fun memories with it. Galing naman.
Oo.
Did you follow that story?
Yeah, I've heard that story. You know what my experience is with these viral stories? When they go viral, paunahan yan ng pagbigay ng bisikleta o kung ano man yung kailangan.
Oh, pero shoutout talaga din sa rider. That's Binondo
I
to
know.
Cavite. I don't know where
Grabe.
exactly in Cavite,
Hardcore.
but between Dasmariñas and Cavite City, that's anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers.
Amazing strength, but amazing generosity also from our netizens. And I think that's a good way to wrap up today. That wraps up today's big story. My name is Gretchen Ho. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. I'm Robbie Alampay. We are One News. Good evening.